Catholics and the Bible. Some people think they do not go together. Let's find out. The Bible is a product of the Church. St. Paul did not go from place to place with a copy of the Gospels in his hand. The evangelist and Paul wrote their Gospels and letters for the entire Church. These Gospels and letters were used and read during the liturgies of the early Christian Church. They circulated. They were copied painstakingly for other communities so they could be read during their liturgy as well. So the Bible grew within the Church. When Jesus, the apostles and evangelists speak of the scriptures, what they mean is the Old Testament. But the New Testament was still in the making. The letters of Paul were written around 50 to 55. The Gospel of Mark was written around 65 to 70, so Jesus had died already 30 years ago. The Gospel of Luke was written around 80 to 85, Matthew 80-85, and the Gospel of John is the last one, the latest one, around 90 to 95. How did this New Testament come along? The way we know it now is the end product. Why, for instance, are there 4 Gospels and not 7 or 10? Those were the Gospels that were read over and over again in the Christian assemblies. Other ones were not trusted, and thus got sidetracked. In the 2nd century, church leaders began making lists of the books that were in use during liturgy, and had been found to be authentically apostolic. So they were handing on the message, the good news of the apostles and their witnesses. In 367, St. Athanasius listed all 27 books of the New Testament, and he referred to it as the canon. Now, the book of the New Testament was more or less closed. Those were the final trustworthy witnesses. Then there was a first Latin translation. Originally they were written in Aramaic, Greek. So Saint Jerome in 382 was commissioned to translate the old Latin collection that were in use by the Church. He knew Greek and Hebrew. First he used the Greek versions for his first translations. Then from 390 to 405 he translated a new 39 books in the Hebrew Bible. This is called the Vulgate, which became the official Bible translation at the Council of Trent, centuries later. But it was in use in the Church before. It was the only official translation. So monks copied this treasure of the Vulgate over and over again. They were handwritten, so they had to be copied by hand. A single monk could spend more than a year to prepare those manuscripts. It is those monks that kept the Bible alive, for Catholics and future Protestants alike. Monsignor Owen Campion said it right: without those Catholic monks, nobody today would even have a Bible. No wonder the Bible was expensive and scarce. Sometimes they were beautifully handled and illustrated, so only the rich could afford to have a Bible in their homes, under lock and key, protected from theft, because it was a treasure. Some richer churches had a copy too, secured by a chain. The chain was not to stop the Catholics from reading the Bible, but to guarantee that everyone could read, could do so. So the Bible was for literates and illiterates. Most people were illiterate, so the Church helped them with other tools, homilies by priests and stained glass windows with biblical scenes. That's how the message of the Gospel was handed over from generation to generation, especially for illiterates, and that was the majority. Then the printing press came, and it changed the Bible completely. Johannes Gutenberg invented the first primitive press around 1439. It was a big innovation. So his major work was the Gutenberg Bible, the first printed version of the Bible, the Latin Vulgate again, which had become the standard translation of the Catholic Church. Mass production was on its way, copies for everyone, provided they could read, of course, and most people couldn't. Initially the price was still high, but very low compared to handwritten copies. So it was easier to get access to a copy. And then Luther came around. Luther divorced the Bible from the Catholic Church. He detached the Bible from its original source. He wanted nothing but the Bible. He also privatized the Bible. Everyone should have a private copy in their own language at home. They should read it privately and interpret it privately. It is through this privatization that Protestant churches went through split after split, all different interpretations of that same Bible, because it was detached from the church. Because of this danger, Catholics were often not encouraged to read the Bible on their own, because it could be dangerous. And that's what most people think of when they talk about Catholics. The first English Bible translations were important because Latin was losing its monopoly. And besides, most people could not read, and those who could read did not know Latin anymore. The first major Bible translation into modern English was the Tyndale Bible. It was a Protestant version. Catholic officials, especially St. Thomas More, charged that Tyndale had purposely mistranslated the text in order to promote heretical views, and he explained why he thought so. I won't go into that discussion. Then there was the first English Catholic translation, of course based on the Vulgate, the Douay-Rheims Bible in 1582. Many Catholics still have a copy of that Douay-Rheims Bible. So let's repeat it again. No Bible without the Catholic Church. What came first, the Bible or the Church? The Church. The New Testament was born in the cradle of the Catholic Church. It was the Catholic Church that kept the Bible alive for centuries through handwritten copies. The Bible came from the Church and should be read with the Church. As St. Paul says, faith comes from hearing, more so than from reading. Hearing it in the liturgy. The Church came first. No Church, no Bible. Those who detach the Bible from its source, the Church, end up basically with an empty shell. So do Catholics read the Bible? Probably not as much as some Protestants. But they do read the Bible in Community Day, during the Sunday Mass and often during daily Mass. They hear it proclaimed, day after day, Sunday after Sunday. They probably hear more parts of the Bible than during a Protestant service where the minister selects his or her favorite Bible passages. No wonder the Roman Catholic Mass lectionary has now become the basis for several Protestant lectionaries. It's a 3-year cycle of 4 passages from Scripture, including one from the Psalms. So Catholics hear basically a great overview of the entire Bible during 3-year cycles. It's hard to interpret the Bible on your own, privately, like Luther proclaimed. The Bible was not given to individuals to be read and interpreted in their own individual ways. From early times on, the Bible was read and explained during the liturgy of the Church. It was a church activity. As the Acts of the Apostles say, when Philip met the Ethiopian, he asked him, "Do you understand what you are reading?" "How can I," he said, "unless someone explains it to me?" The Bible has to be explained and interpreted. That's why there is a sermon, a homily, after the Bible readings, so we can understand what we are reading in the Bible.